Now, Mr. Speaker, Friday, April 15th, is a day of two deadlines. That is the deadline most Americans know by which they must pay their federal income taxes. Everybody understands that deadline, and Americans don't have a choice but to comply with that deadline. The other deadline is that is the day by which Congress must pass a budget. And it is up to the Republican majority to produce that budget and bring that budget to the floor for a vote. Unfortunately, the Republican majority will miss that deadline and fail the American people in our fundamental responsibility to earn our pay by passing budgets. That's what we are put here to do, is debate priorities and pass budgets. And yet, this deadline will be missed. Failing to pass a budget by deadline is a fundamental failure to the American people. I will say, however, that in this case, a missed budget may be a little better than the bad budget that Republicans originally proposed. It is a budget that fundamentally fails the middle class. It is a budget, as proposed, that gets rid of the Medicare guarantee. It is a budget, as proposed, that slashes $6.5 trillion in fundamentally important priorities to the middle class, in making sure their kids are well educated, in making sure that we're rebuilding America with infrastructure and trying to reduce traffic jams and rebuilding our bridges and our tunnels and modernizing our airports. It's a budget that undermines the middle class. It is a budget that fails the middle class. Now, I understand the need for us to reduce spending, and I have supported significant reductions in spending in my time in Congress. But what this budget does is it takes away from the middle class in order to further enrich the most powerful, the special interests. And that is why people are so angry out there. They understand that Washington has to do more with less, but not give more to people who already have the most. And that's what the Republican budget does. That is the architecture of spending tax dollars that must be paid by April 15th. You take away from the middle class, and you give more to people who are doing pretty well already. People who are doing so well that they can hire all sorts of friends to do their work here in Washington, and maybe even contribute to some super PACs. I think that's wrong. People are angry because not only our priorities are wrong, but they see very little evidence of a Congress under Republican leadership in the Senate and the House that is doing its job. They're angry because the Republican Senate won't even debate and vote on a Supreme Court nomination. You can vote for it, you can vote against it. They won't even vote on that nomination. That is a failure to do the job that they are paid to do. And they're angry because the majority here in the House of Representatives won't do their job and pass a budget. As I said before, Mr. Speaker, maybe no budget is better than a bad budget, but both represent failure for the American people. The Pew Corporation did a study just several weeks ago that said that for the first time since the Depression, to be in the middle class in America is to be in the minority. About 49% of Americans are in the middle class. The rest are either richer or poorer. An economy grows best when the middle class is strongest. We need to fulfill our responsibility to that middle class by doing what they will pay us to do on April 15th. Just do our jobs and pass a budget that invests in their growth, in their families, in their children, and as I opened, invests in our troops, our national security, and make sure that every veteran in America is taken care of. Those are the priorities we have in our budgets, and I yield back the balance.